purpose really comes from that 1 minute decision where you're probably having a difficult time or having to make a difficult choice, and you're able to see the whole puzzle, as we said earlier. And from that place, you start to live and you start to become who you're meant to be. Hello and welcome to Spiritually Hungry.
Hello. Very excited for our topic today, I have to say.
I am as well. The first thing I want to do...
It's probably the most important topic there is.
You've already started to interrupt me. Wow, we're not even a minute into it. The first thing I want to ask our listeners are these questions. Do you want to live longer?
Yes.
Do you want to sleep better?
Sure.
Do you want to be more engaged with life?
Yes.
Do you want to be happier and have lower rates of depression? Well, to do all of this, the answer lies in having a strong sense of purpose and living it. And if you do those things, then you will be able to achieve everything I just listed. Often we pursue these other things, like I need to sleep more, so I have to take this supplement, or I need to live longer, so I need to do this. But the truth is, when you're living a purposeful life, which is one of the hardest things, I think, for people to find, unless they understand there's a perfect formula, which we're going to share, then they go around their lives trying to remedy the side effects of not living a purposeful and meaningful life. According to a 2019 study in the Journal of American Medicine, people with a strong sense of purpose have a decreased mortality rate and lower risk of dying from heart, circulatory, and blood disorders. Now, we all know that there is the correlation, even before I just said that for everybody. And of course, we all want to live our purpose. That's not the issue. But here's the paradox.
Well, but I hope so. I hope that's true.
I think everybody wants...
I don't know. People just...
Well, we have to define what purpose is. Because we're not saying... Because for some, purpose is a successful life. If I'm successful, then I made a difference, or my life had some purpose and meaning to it. And I think that I know that we're going to go a little bit deeper with that.
I would just... Maybe, I don't assume all listeners are here, but I wonder how many people ask themselves, what is my purpose in life? Am I living my purpose? I think many people, certainly I would say, I don't know, the majority of society goes through life and struggles through life. And their focus is the next thing that I need to do. I need to find my partner. I need to have kids. I need to have a job. I don't know. Again, it's interesting, maybe ChatGPT has the answer. What percent of people actually wake up in the morning and direct their lives in a purposeful way towards a purpose?
Yes, I'm not sure it's as intentional as we do it, but what I am sure of, I can say actually from years of listening to people and working with them intimately, is that everybody wants to know that their life made a difference, that being here somehow mattered. I'm going to get emotional. I'm in the middle of writing a book and I'm having all kinds of feelings about I'm writing essays about my father. I'm having feelings about life in the moment. So I might be emotional because of that. But people want to know that their life mattered to themselves, to other people. And I think that those are the kinds of thoughts that people have, if they're really being honest, something that keeps them up at night, or they can't fall asleep. It's that pervasive thought that comes and shows up. Certainly people have this thought a lot towards the end of their lives, or if they're battling a sickness, right? So I do think that it comes, but I think that we live in a world, in a society where there's so much distraction and there's so many other things, and we confuse what a purposeful and meaningful life is. But I think at the end of the day, and I hear this a lot when people argue, or when people are negotiating for a raise, or they're applying for a big job, and sometimes it gets tricky and complicated, they really want to know that they matter to the person that either they're in a relationship with, or they're fighting with, or that they're working for. And that kind of, and they get confused what that's like, but that kind of becomes the narrative, because that is a desire.
Yeah. And I do think it's worth delineating the two, purpose and meaning, so that I think purpose is more all encompassing, which is, why did my soul come to this world? And why is it here today? And why is it here tomorrow? And why is it here next month? And meaning, I think, is more general. Meaning, that was there meaning to my life? Meaning, even if 70% of the time I maybe didn't live my purpose, but at least there's something that I, like you said, left here, leave here, and an influence. So I think what I'm hoping we're inspiring for our listeners to really ask yourself the question, what is the meaning of your life? That's a more general idea. I forgot, I was reading the other day, somebody was, I think maybe something you wrote, that maybe something you shared, that right, right, that our children are meaning. I read this in another place as well. But I think a deeper question, which I really hope to inspire our listeners to be asking, is what is the purpose of my life? And purpose is all encompassing.
Well, there's a correlation though. And I think that when we look for meaning in both the hardships and the chaos, the chaotic parts of our lives, and also in the great joys of our lives, how we, and we'll unpack all of this and we'll explain how to get there, but how we are able to find meaning through all of our life creates a purpose-filled life, right? And it leads you to your ultimate purpose, because now you've trained your consciousness and yourself to not just kind of float through life or shuffle through it, but to really actually participate in every aspect of it. And that's where purpose lies.
And I think that you touched upon something that I think is really, really important. And that is that I think the proper way to view, because these are very loaded words, meaning, purpose. For many people, that can mean, what is the big business that I built, right? What is the great book, right? I was reading yesterday about John Steinbeck, and what was his, greatest, they say Grapes of Wrath was his, and if he only wrote that, his life would have been his literary life at least would have been worth living. And I think often we make the mistake, and although there is a part of our focus that needs to be directed in that way, which is, what am I leaving here? What did I create that maybe will last, that maybe has a lasting effect? I think the Kabbalistic way of viewing purpose is something very personal. And that is that I came into this world with the purpose of changing. And everything else that happens, even the important things that I do, and I get married, and I have children, and I have a business, and all that we have to make sure it all comes back to, and how is this changing me?
Right. And
how am I daily becoming a better person, a different person? And that internal, not selfish, but focused transformation is, I think, at the core purpose. And from there, you can come to understand, okay, what are the great works I'm supposed to be doing?
Well, part of what hinders us from doing that is that we tend to look at our lives in compartments. I like this part of my life. I'm not satisfied in this other part of my life. That other thing that happens is good, but I wish this other thing would just go away, and then I'd be happy. Instead, we're supposed to look at our lives holistically and say, okay, all of these things, the things that I love, the things that I don't like, it's all there actually to direct you to your purpose. Because when you look at all of those things, the things you like, the things you don't like, as a gift and as pieces of a bigger puzzle, and you are meant to connect the pieces, not to separate and decide, I like this one. I like when you have a bag of M&Ms. I don't like the red. I like the brown ones. I like the yellow. We're supposed to look at our whole life and say, okay, these are all pieces of one big puzzle, which makes the whole me, right? So
I would take that even further, because I do think it's a very important idea, that rather than thinking about our purpose and the meaning of our lives in the moments that we enjoy, in the moments we receive accolades, big or small, actually, the prism through which you view the purpose of your life is that internal transformation for which your soul came into this world and from which everything else will flow, then you actually begin to embrace actually those things that you don't enjoy and those things that you didn't want to happen.
Because it's a piece that you were missing. If you're doing a jigsaw puzzle and everything is great except the 4 pieces that you can't figure out, and you're looking all over the one you lost and it's under the table and you're searching for it and you actually fit it in, you're like, oh, now I see the whole picture. It's starting to make sense, right? It's not all of it. It's the 20 pieces that you actually can't figure out that really help you see the entire part of your life.
So purpose is more in the uncomfortable.
Correct. In
the ones you don't choose, wouldn't have chosen, rather than those that you do choose and think, or at least desire for them to be a purpose.
So we have said that we understand purpose is important, but the paradox is for some people, when they're going to look for the purpose, which now we've identified why that's not the way to go about it, it creates stress and anxiety. What am I meant to do? Remember when our oldest son was 17, he walked around for an entire year saying, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of life? And I'm like, you don't want to know the meaning of life. You want to know the meaning of your life. And let's talk about that. But that is the paradox. So with purpose, we have to stop looking at it as this big thing that we have to define, right? I look at it this way. There's purpose in capital letters, meaning that it's things that are attached to big aspirations. It's often connected to external things that are out of our control, accolades, recognition, outcomes, and it leaves us feeling anxious, impatient, and left behind. Then there's the lowercase purpose, and that you have a very funny face on right now. I know.
Just listening.
The lowercase purpose, which is process oriented. And it's far more aligned with our soul. It's the moments that light you up. It's conversations that deepen connection. It's doing meaningful work. And it's showing up daily with love and curiosity and empathy. That lowercase purpose, you can feel that it's mundane because, again, it's not shiny. It's not the thing that you're going to look and it's going to be on a building. It might even go unnoticed to the entire world. But what happens is you know internally that you made a difference in somebody's life, that you helped a stranger across the street or you helped somebody elderly. And if you didn't help them, they would have had a horrible day and they would have suffered in that day. It's the small purpose, the lowercase, that is really how you become a purposeful human being. And you start to understand what your purpose is because you start to feel like you're really living the life you're intended to live.
I think that's a very important point. Again, I'll just underscore that what you're saying is more important than knowing your big work. Invest purpose and meaning in the mundane or in the, not even the mundane, but the daily. So
it's not something you find, it's something you live.
And something you awaken.
Right, every day.
So you're about to, even use a simple example, you're about to cook a dinner for your family, right? So you could look at that as something I need to do, something that's the right thing to do. It's, or you can say, no, I'm actually going to invest. This is part of this has meaning. This has purpose. You're about to spend an afternoon with your child, right? Or a friend, right? Rather than just go to it and maybe even enjoy it, invest it with purpose. We're connecting, we're awakening love, whatever it is that you're doing, but to know that actually there aren't any moments or any interactions that aren't meant to be purposeful and meaningful.
Well, here's the thing. I think when people look at purpose, it's more dependent not on what you're achieving, but on who you're being or becoming in that moment. And that's why those difficult moments are the most important, because that is what is the becoming of you. So for instance, I see this a lot with parenting. People often go to great lengths to have children. Some can't have it naturally or effortlessly, and they have to go through all kinds of things, whether it's adoption or IVF or wait, a decade for it to finally happen. And I see often, and not in those specific cases, but when the child arrives or throughout the lifetime, right, we get frustrated with their demands or if they're whiny or if there's issues. But instead, if we stop in that moment and say, okay, why am I having this experience? And who am I meant to become through this? How can I help the child, but also in my own becoming? And I feel so blessed that our second son, Josh, was born with Down syndrome, because I'm not really sure what kind of parent I'd actually be, one, to all four of our kids without him. And I'm not really sure that I would have appreciated parenting as much as I have and being a mother as much as I have, because that was never like on my list. I didn't really have a list, actually. Like, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. And that's why for me, when the question was, what do you want to be when you got older? I would get stressed and worried at 17, 18. I don't know. But when you start living in accordance to your soul, which means that you show up for yourself every single day in the hard ways, especially when it's really difficult, you start to understand who you are and you start to connect what purpose is. So when Josh was born, in the unique way that he came into the world, the only choice I really had in that moment was who I was going to become and who he would become, instead of deciding who he already was based on his diagnosis, right? Because that's how the world, doctors, society set it up. Give up on your son. He's disabled and he's not going to achieve many things, right? 7 doctors called us into a room a few days after he was born because we were so young. I was 27, you were 28. They thought we didn't understand, but we understood. We just didn't accept their diagnosis as they saw it. And I think a big tool in this is that life comes down really into 1-minute decisions. in that moment when the doctors called us in the office, right? And even the month after, 2 months after, the decision we actually had, it took a minute. No. I'm going to decide who I am going to become through this experience. And I am going to discover who my son will become. That 1 minute decision actually changed my entire life from that moment forward. If I had made a different decision based on what I had heard or what had happened to us in that moment, then it would have been something else. So again, those big achievements, those lofty goals, sure, have them. But purpose really comes from that 1 minute decision where you're probably having a difficult time or having to make a difficult choice, and you're able to see the whole puzzle, as we said earlier. And from that place, you start to live and you start to become who you're meant to be.
Again, I just want to underscore what you're saying is so important, that unless you grab the opportunity of the difficult times, great or small, it is almost impossible to become the person you're supposed to be, and therefore impossible to live your purpose and your life of meaning. And when we do go through those challenges, to ask the question, as you did and shared, how do I want to purposely be transformed in a positive way by this? Because this is going to have a ripple effect on every other aspect of my life forever. Mm-hmm. And it's a really important point. Exactly.
Moment. We think that the thing that happened to us that we didn't want is actually going to change our lives forever. No, it's how you respond to that thing that's going to change your life forever in whichever way you want it to.
Right.
That's where your free will comes in.
Right.
I always say the process is the purpose, but also your process in life will become your purpose in life. And I think that even if you just have that mantra or that ism in front of you and you start to look at life through that, you're going to experience it very differently.
Absolutely.
Did you want to share something? I have another idea, but go ahead. I want to hear yours.
So one of my favorite sections in the book of the prophet from the Torah, from the Old Testament, is the beginning of the book of Jeremiah. And I think it has at least two very important lessons to clarify, teach us how to connect to our mission, life's mission, purpose, meaning. So I'd like to read it and then maybe go more deeply into two ideas. So Jeremiah
was a bullfrog, was a good friend. I'm sorry.
You keep going. I was enjoying that.
Well, you can't say Jeremiah without having the song play in your head.
I don't think I've ever said that Jeremiah had that song play in my head.
Always.
I have mentioned it and had you sing that song.
Oh, I can't help myself.
So Jeremiah is struggling with his life's purpose. And what becomes clear is that and this is the second idea, that
why is he struggling?
He just doesn't think he's that great of a person.
Why?
I think like most of us.
That's interesting.
We think too lowly of our potential.
And was he noteworthy because he had that belief, or was it everything he did after that? Like, does he highlight it because...
He's highlighted because this is a moment of transformation for him.
Okay, so unpack it.
So I'll read the words. So he has a revelation, Jeremiah does. And God speaks to him. And he says, "Before I created you in the womb, I selected you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to all the nations." Right? So that idea, and Kabbalistically, we know these ancient books, they're not historical books, but rather they are speaking to you and I right now. Mm. So what I'd like to say to myself and to our listeners, this is the way you should be thinking about yourself. That when you were even before you were created in the womb, your soul was set aside by the Creator to say, this great work, great light that you need to bring into this world.
So before, how old was he? Like before this time, what was he doing with his life?
He didn't see, lost.
Just like kind of
lost. Lost. So, and it continues because.
And so he kind of asked the Creator for, or he has just lost, and then this message comes.
Exactly. Exactly. And then he says to God, "I don't know how to speak, for I am still a boy." Mm. And he means a boy, not just in age, but in maturity, ability. Yeah. And again, like I said, By the
way, you know how many times I've heard people come to me and say, "I don't know how to speak. I wish that I sounded like this or that. I just don't know." And I'm always like, that's not true.
Right. And I do want to, again, underscore that I really think for our listeners, if to meditate upon this section. It's in the beginning of the book of Jeremiah. It will, when you approach it in this way as a really a prayer of your soul to the Creator to reveal your purpose, it will show you. God said to me, "Do not say I am still a boy, but go wherever I send you and speak whatever I command you. Have no fear, for I am with you." So says God. Mm-hmm. And this, again, as you said, this is not just a message to Jeremiah thousands of years ago. This is a message to you and me. And what does it awaken us to? Our purpose is not something we need to make up or even to create. Before our soul came into this world, the Creator chose me, meaning not, me and everybody, me. The Creator said, I need you to do something very, very special, and I've already given it to you. And as it says, I have put my word in your mouth. So when you view purpose in that way, that, it's similar to, we often people, when they have children, they call us and they ask us, to help them, because we know Kabbalistically the name that a child is given is very important. It connects them to an energy. And what I always remind new parents is that we are not giving a name to the child. That soul had a name even before it came down into this world. And that name, by the way, held within it its purpose, its Creator's vision for it. And what we want to do is just to discover, to have the merit, the ability to discover what was this soul's name always. Mm-hmm. So too as it comes to our purpose. When you don't look at your purpose as something you need to create, you need to find. What you need to do is go back to your soul and the message that it got, the purpose that it was given even before it came into this world.
So let me give a tip to our listeners, because that sounds like, I don't know how to go back to that point. And I remember very specifically in my life when that happened, when I was 17, I was drawn to this wisdom. And I first wasn't fully, sure about it. My father introduced me, my grandmother had introduced him. But when I arrived to it, when I actually took the steps and I went to go and participate, it was undeniable what I was feeling. And I acknowledged that, right? That this is a truth, this is a wisdom, this is something that answers every question, doubt I've ever had in life. And what I did from that moment on is I continued to show up. And I think part of the problem is we all, and I think it's undeniable for everybody, whether they've admitted to themselves or not, we have all had moments in life where we feel lit up, where we feel so connected to a truth, nature, a wisdom, a calling, an act of sharing. And we dabble in it, but we tell ourselves, I don't have time for this right now. I have this other responsibility. I have this other thing to do. I have to make a living. I have to be successful. I have to achieve. And we ignored this other part. But the truth is, when you go down that road and you do the things that really light you up and you show up for yourself in that way again and again and again, you are living a purposeful existence, because now you know the difference between what that feels like. You know what it feels like to be successful versus what it feels like to actually show up repeatedly for yourself in ways that truly matter. And part of that, with what comes with purpose, is that there needs to be connection. There needs to be aspects of sharing what you're doing, because it can't be, purpose will always be connected to how you give of yourself in a larger and greater way.
Just two points I want to really, really underscore, because I think they're so powerful and important. This phrase here, for I am still a boy. Every single one of us, myself included, and every single one of our listeners has this thought. So you can be 50 years old, you still are.
You'll never feel like you're ready to do anything that needs to be done, by the way.
Or maybe more important, lacking a true appreciation for both your power and purpose. It's greater than you think. That's all I'm going to say.
For sure, but people think that, when later, like I'm not ready for that, or who am I? I'm a fraud. I mean, how many times do we hear this, right?
But meditate upon these words.
Syndrome,
and I
all
love
these things. This is the thing. This is the key,
And God says, do not say I am still a boy. And this, I really think this is a call for every one of our listeners. Find out where you're still saying to yourself, I am a boy, and try to push yourself beyond that. And related to that, a very important idea that you have to desire to live your soul's purpose. What I mean by that is that it has to be your number one priority. And when you meditate, when you pray, when you speak to the Creator, it has to be true. I mean, it's not about saying the words, but it has to be that you say to the Creator, I want to live the purpose of my soul. That is my number one priority before and beyond anything else that I do. And I promise you that if that's a constant prayer and request, you will absolutely find and live both your purpose and your power.
And part of that is, in finding the purpose, is that connection. It's constantly putting yourself out in big ways and small ways to connect to your source. And the number one way to do that is to share.
Right.
That's the secret, right? You feel upset, go share. You feel disappointed, go share. You doubt yourself, go share. When you get out of yourself and you give in that way, now you become who you're meant to be. It's the being, it's right. And we know this truth. We can accomplish extraordinary things and still feel empty. You can check every box of success and still feel that your life lacks meaning, because we know achievement without sharing is hollow. And I love this quote by Pablo Picasso. He said, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And that's the paradox that so many miss. You don't feel purposeful after you share. You feel purposeful because you share. The sense of meaning doesn't come from the outcome. It comes from the process. And one of my favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl, I love his writing, especially Man's Search for Meaning, but he said, we should stop looking at what we expect from life, but rather what life expects from us. And that's another mantra and ism to kind of live, right? If you go through your day every day with that thought, your day is going to look very, very different.
Absolutely. So I would ask our listeners to stop for a moment and really ask and think, how much of my day, of my life is spent outwardly giving? Because one thing we're saying for sure is that unless that is a consistent and constant part of your life, there's no way you're going to be able to live your purpose and have a life of true meaning.
And the other idea is that every person's purpose is purposeful. So often we compare ourselves to other people and we think, wow, compared to that person, what am I really going to contribute to this world? And it's another way that we stay stuck. It's another way, like what you shared about Jeremiah, where the little boy or the little girl, we stay in that space. So let's just make it really, really simple and very basic. Consider a bee. Bees, they're tiny, they're overlooked until they really annoy you, and then you get scared and you might run off. You don't want to get stung. But without bees, more than 70% of the world's most important crops would disappear. Apples, avocados, coffee, berries. I mean, my favorite things, by the way. Entire ecosystems depend on their quiet, tireless work. Spiders, they're universally feared, right? And without them, insect population would explode, crops would fail, the ecological balance would collapse. Even ants, worms, burrowing, decomposing, they're in the soil. We need all of this, right? So the lesson's simple, but it's profound. It doesn't matter what role you play. It matters how you show up for it, which we talked about showing up. But again, we tend to do that. Like, I am not important enough. If I'm not the lead, or I'm not compared to that person doing as much, then my job's unimportant. And it's another way to really miss out on life and on the purpose of life. It's in those small ways. And you shared this at the beginning. If you are a stay-at-home parent and you're cooking for your children, or it's how you view it. If you view your work as unimportant, it's going to be ineffective. It won't land. Even if you cook a great dinner for your family, but you resent doing it, it's probably not going to taste good, or they're going to feel that on some level. It will show up in other areas. So whatever it is that you're doing in life, even if you don't feel it's what you're meant to do, start being in that. Start really enjoying it and living it, and start doing other things that you enjoy more, but at least start practicing that what you do matters and it makes a difference for people. And if you really feel that that's not the case, then I would probably really reevaluate my life. But I think it's a good place to start.
Absolutely. And there's a whole history of great souls whose purpose was to do what one would consider mundane things. There's a famous sage from 2,000 years ago. His name was Yochanan the shoemaker. And that was his job. His job was to make shoes and imbue them with light and love. And that was it. And he became one of the greatest souls that ever lived. And there were those whose job was to be a baker, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really important to...
What do you mean he became one of the greatest souls to ever live? How did that happen?
Because he invested, he came to understand, this is my purpose in life, is to make shoes, invest them with light, with energy. And that work that he did most of the day enabled his light and his soul to grow, so that even 2,000 years later, we're still mentioning him and receiving from him. He also studied and wrote and expounded on many great wisdoms, but really his real purpose was to be that shoemaker. And I think to your point is that maybe even, and there's a concept in Kabbalah about the 36 hidden righteous people know you never hear about, and that's a concept that's not just for those 36.
You wouldn't recognize them in the street. Probably think very little of them.
Exactly. And the understanding is that purpose is not dependent on external view, but on the internal energy invested in it. And what we're saying to our listeners,
but so many people when people come to us all the time, how, if that person is so clearly full of ego, why are they successful? And they confuse the success that they view, which actually being a purposeful and meaningful life.
Absolutely. So what we're saying to our listeners is, right now, invest purpose and meaning in what you're doing. By the way, like you said, not only maybe that is actually the purpose for which you came into this world, or it will help you discover it. But if you're not investing that energy of purpose and meaning into what you're currently doing, it will be almost impossible for them to find out the next thing and the next thing.
And spiritually speaking, we talk about soul contracts also, that before we come down, we have contracts with different souls. And it's usually the people you're closest with, for sure, but also other people that you are attracted to and drawn to through the course of your life. And so if, for instance, a mother who is a stay-at-home and she doesn't enjoy it, right? But her soul made a contract to raise her child a certain way because that child was meant to discover, a new plant, whatever it is, do something that one would view as successful or big or influential in the world. But if she resented that, who knows what child she would have raised. If we understood spiritually, right, that it's set up like this and it's divine and it's perfect because you're actually, what you're supposed to offer this child, only you can offer. And what this child is supposed to do in this world, that soul came to do a specific thing, but it needs your love. It needs your unconditional love to be able to do that. And if we don't fully understand that, right, and we'll never achieve what we were meant to in this world.
Absolutely.
I was reading an article and it was about Ron Howard, who was a child actor and then he was a director. He still is. And he was speaking to Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney said, I'm finally comfortable speaking about the Beatles and not having to be guarded because I've done enough after the Beatles to be comfortable talking about that. And Ron Howard said, that really resonates with me. I don't mind being called Opie now, which was the character he played as a 6-year-old. Because I've done so much more as a director. And it got me thinking, I think the real issue where we get stuck here in purpose is how we view ourselves. Like you said with Jeremiah, but even people who've had success externally, right? That's what struck me with these two examples. They are both very successful in what they do and what they've done. But their view of themselves, it's complicated, right? I'm not comfortable talking about these things because there's so much more I should be doing. It's just, where are we in our feelings about ourselves in terms of what we've done in our lives so far to this day and what we have yet to do, and to just sort that, because if not, we can get so complicated in it that I haven't done enough, and we get stuck in that and ruminate about that we never actually push ourselves to go and do the real things that matter.
Right.
So purpose isn't something you earn in the future. It's something you practice today. And when you live this way, ordinary moments become meaningful. Life feels less like something you're chasing and more like something you're inhabiting. And that, ironically, is exactly what it means to live a purpose-filled life.
Beautiful. So I'd like to share two emails that we got from our listeners. We got a lot more, and some of them are beautiful. So many of them are beautiful that hopefully over the next few episodes we'll get to share some of them. So I was going to share two. So the first is from Emily. I hope this message finds you. I ordered The Tale of the Other Glove and that's Monica's new book, and just got done reading it for the second time today to my 3.5-year-old son. And I am fighting back tears.
Oh, I love that.
Truly such an amazing story. I will be getting it for all of my friends with kids. You should get it for all of your friends, even without kids. I am also a newer listener of your Spiritually Hungry pod, and it's become my favorite one to listen to when I sit in the sauna at the gym. It's become a sort of ritual. You and your husband, that would be me, make a huge difference in many lives, mine being one of them. Thank you for being a change junkie, that's Monica, and inspiring me to always strive to be better.
I love the places we go. I love hearing about people like,
the places you'll go.
I was in the sauna. I was, in the car. I went to and we're just going along with them.
So thank you, Emily, for that. And here's another email from one of our listeners. Hello, thank you so much for the Spiritually Hungry podcast. This has been a true blessing. I find the simplicity in which you deliver the messages have made a profound impact on my understanding of principles and spiritual habits that I once thought I understood fully, and now realize my understanding was barely scraping the surface. In the episodes about daily rituals and practices, you both said you start your day with ancient texts of wisdom. And Monica said she had a stack of books on her desk. Can you recommend some text to read? I have read the Bible numerous times, and I have found myself seeking more beauty and truth. Kabbalah is new to me, but my soul feels so familiar and aligned with everything I've heard so far. I appreciate any recommendations you can give, and thank you for this beautiful podcast you have put out into the world. Thank you, Amber. So
there's so many books.
Yeah, I know. But give maybe one or two.
Well, all of yours, all of mine. Wheels of a Soul.
By my father of Berg.
Yes. Many Lives, Many Masters. I thought was profound. She Wants Ancient, right? There's other books that I think are perfect. I mean, I love Man's Search for Meaning. I highly recommend that. I think that's deeply spiritual. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I would just add The Secrets of the Zohar, which is a collection that
Any of your books, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but this one specifically is a collection from the Zohar,
yes.
The 2,000-year-old foundational text of Kabbalah.
Also, Kalaman.
Of Piasetzna.
Yes, his book. What's the title of the book? Any of his books are great. Kalaman Shapira.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can keep reading more, but I think, again, for me.
The Noam Elimelech is great.
Yeah, but these are, some of them are, I don't know how easy they are to read and understand. But therefore, I would
Matt Haig's The Comfort Book. I mean, there's so many great books.
Ancient texts.
I know, but.
Well, I'll still go back to Secrets of the Zohar and say one that of all the ones you mentioned, you would recommend starting with.
Yeah, I think Wheels of a Soul.
Wheels of a Soul by Rav Berg. Thank you for your emails, for your messages. They inspire us and make us happy. And I believe they inspire and make our listeners happy. This is a great time to remind all of you to go to Apple Podcasts and write 5-star reviews. This allows more people to discover this podcast. Share this podcast with everybody you know. Send your emails, questions, comments, inspirations to Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. Monica and Michael at spirituallyhungry.life. We love getting your emails. We love reading them. They inspire us and inspire our listeners. And as always, we hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Stay spiritually hungry.